Welcome to Hand Forged, the podcast where real tradespeople share their real stories. Here at Hand Forged, we're dedicated to bringing attention to the trades, fostering a community of blue-collar professionals, and offering support through shared experiences and insights. Each episode will dive deep into journeys, challenges, and successes of our guests. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the trades, you'll find valuable tips, inspiring stories, and practical advice to help you navigate and thrive in your career. So grab your tools and get ready to be inspired. This is Hand Forged. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hand Forged. We're here with Mike Cesaroni with a whole bunch of different places. He's got an HVAC company. He's got a construction company. He's got a podcast as well down in Rhode Island. Appreciate you coming up, man, taking the trip.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Oh, yeah. So why don't you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about the businesses you have going on, the podcast that you got, fill everybody in.
Yeah, so I'll start off with the podcast. We run a podcast called the Mindset Radio Podcast. We started it probably about 6 months ago. My intention going into the podcast was strictly networking and meeting cool people that were like-minded, that wanted to work on projects together in the future or just create a relationship. Yep. And I believe, we are 16, 17 episodes in now, and I believe we're starting to finally we're starting to see the foundation being built. Yep. And those relationships are starting to pay off, and we're really starting to grow, and people are watching, and we're spreading we're spreading positive energy and just good motivation to people that are watching. So that's a lot of fun, and we do that in our spare time. We put a lot of work into it, and all the stuff that I do it because I like to do it, and that's the beauty about what we do, is because none of it really feels like work. Yeah. I also own an HVAC company with my partner, Mike Phillips. We started it last year, October 5th. So we just crossed our year. We did very well our first year. And before we started that company, I knew nothing about HVAC, nothing. He approached me knowing that I knew business, that I was very good on the back end of things with networking and branding. And we took the company and brought it to $1 million company within a year. And we have two vehicles. We have an in-house crew, two in-house crews. We're looking to hire more now, and the company's just growing. We have a 5-year plan. We want to have 10 vehicles on the road by 2026. I'm sorry, and I believe that's absolutely doable with the direction that we're going.
Oh yeah.
So, just going back to not knowing anything about HVAC when I started, it's like when you get into businesses, you don't necessarily, you have the ability to learn on the fly.
Right.
We have tools at our fingertips now that allow us to just learn anything at our disposal. So I learned the business really quick. I watched videos after videos after video, answered, multiple, just always asking questions. Yep. And it ended up doing really well.
I feel like that's the thing about podcasts too, is that so I did it for the same reason. Like I want to reach the blue collar audience and kind of help some of these guys grow and build their businesses and all that type of stuff. Also saw it as a great opportunity to network and meet new people. Obviously, like you guys came up from Rhode Island, like that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
That you're the furthest person to come for the podcast so far.
Nice.
So you wear that hat.
Oh yeah.
At Seacoast Cabinet, Raleigh, Mass, we offer a full range of services from design to installation, tailored to residential and commercial applications. We carry 3 lines of American-made cabinetry to fit any budget, ensuring that you get the best quality and value. For more information or a free quote and design, head to seacoastcabinetne.com.
What I've also found in it is that, dude, I've learned so much in the podcast about so many different things. I'm like, damn, that's what I like about it. It's like you get a little bit of an education, but you're also kind of helping out and doing some networking. It's perfect.
The networking aspect is the best part.
Yeah.
It's the best part. And you really, truly make great friendships out of it.
Yeah.
We just clicked with somebody yesterday I had on, and we felt like we knew each other forever.
Yeah.
And now it's a spinoff. We're going to start our own show. It's going to be called You Missed the 90s, the little plug. We're going to talk about just 90s nostalgia. We were both born in 86. And talk about the Tony Hawk era and stuff like that, and just put a little cool spin on it. And I just love making content. I love creating, and I love doing things that just make us I love monetizing my life.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, because right now we're in the age of just being able to monetize anything.
Yep.
And if you really put your mind to it and find the angle on how you can do it, it's possible. So
for sure.
Podcasting's awesome, man. It's awesome. It's a great way of networking.
It's funny, you're talking about truancy officers earlier and Tony Hawk. And I was actually thinking about the story I was going to tell you earlier, but we didn't get into it. I remember I had skipped school. I didn't go to high school a lot. We had skipped, and I was with my buddy Johnny, and we both were on juvenile probation, playing Tony Hawk in his basement. You know, the video game was like PS.
Mine was Halo.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Halo too. Yeah. GoldenEye 007 on Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were playing Tony Hawk, and our PO, we went upstairs to grab a soda, and I look out the window, and both our POs were walking up the driveway. And I'll never forget it. We went downstairs into like the boiler side of the basement with a blanket, and we hid on the back side of the boiler with a blanket over us while they were like trying to break in the house because they knew we were home.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny.
They don't do that shit anymore.
No,
man. Like that I went through that same thing. Like officers knocking down my door.
Yeah.
We used to have a hiding spot in the backyard. So like what we used to do when I was in high school and in middle school is my mom used to go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I had her routine down to like a science. So what I would do is I would get ready, put my backpack on. All right, Mom, see you later. And I would walk out the front door, and then I would just walk right around back. And I'd go in the backyard, and I'd sit in the shed. I'd wait for her to leave, and then I'd just go right back in the house.
Yeah.
She got smart to the point enough where she like would lock all the windows and doors, but I got in. I always had a way in. I always had like a card or something. Yeah. And it just caught up. The truancy officer started knocking at the door. Crazy stories from high school, man. I mean, just selling a bunch of weed, just freaking, just insanity. I'm surprised I even graduated.
Yeah.
There's one teacher, Miss Bebo. I love you to death, Miss Bebo. She helped me graduate because she knew I was just a kid that was lost. Yeah. I wasn't a bad kid. I just got into a lot of bad shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So it's funny. I actually graduated high school. I got my diploma 2 years ago. And I actually didn't know. So I'm board chair for a nonprofit, and we have that event tonight. And so I've been with the nonprofit for about 10 years. I got expelled from high school sophomore year. I was 3 months in. I got suspended like 7 times my first 3 months of sophomore year. So like they just had enough, right? Sent me out. And so we used to do work with this kid, Clay, who was like in school for video production. And so the executive director for the nonprofit called me one day, and she's like, hey, Clay's in the area. I want him to come in and have you tell your story on camera. And I've shared my story quite a bit, so like it wasn't out of the norm for me. So I'm like, all right, yeah, send him up. I had him come to the showroom. He recorded it. And she told me it was for like the nonprofit. We were going to do something with it through the nonprofit. A year later, come to find out, she actually used that video with the superintendent of Salem schools, Mike Delahunty, who's actually become kind of a friend now, who's the guy that actually expelled me. They worked for a year with the school board to get me my fully accredited high school diploma, and I had fucking no idea.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool. So they used that video to the board to say that, like, you know, yeah, I didn't graduate high school, I didn't get the credits, but obviously, like, I've done okay, and they wanted to award me that. And Mike wanted to do it before he retired. So they worked together for a year to like get me my fully accredited high school diploma, and then they opened up the auditorium for me. I got to invite whoever I wanted to invite.
This was 2 years ago?
Yeah, I got a cap and gown, and I got to like stand up on the stage and like do the whole high school diploma thing like by myself. But it was cool because I invited all the people, like the teacher that you just mentioned, all of the people that tried, right? Like, you know, there was the DARE officer, George Winchell. He's the one that popped me with the gun. Don Manter, who was the shop teacher, the wood shop teacher, like he had it set up in high school where if I was going to, because I had a little bit of a temper, right? If I was going to blow up in class, I could leave class and walk down to his classroom. I had a little spot in the back. I could just go sit. I could walk through his class. It didn't matter what time of day, what was happening. I could go down there anytime. So it was like all these certain people who saw like the good side of me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And those are all the people that I invited to the high school diploma. Awesome. And then during my presentation, I called out all of them and like shared stories with them. And like,
that's incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. We had like an SEI type of thing. We were called like the basement kids. So there was like the literal basement of the high school, and it was where the health class was, and there was like a row of classrooms, and that was my area for the entire day. And we stayed in those 3 rooms. We just bounced from one room to another. We didn't do any. There was no classes. There was no math. I didn't learn math. I didn't learn science. There was no history classes. It was show up, color these things. Like, what is this picture? Like, it was craziness.
Yeah.
And then the bell rang. Actually, we actually left early. Like, I didn't have to stay the whole day. I left at 12 o'clock every day. Everybody had to leave at 1:30.
Yep.
When I was, and this goes back all the way back in elementary school. When I was in elementary school, they made a box out of duct tape on the floor. And this is in front of the entire class. So I've had like some crazy stuff happen in school my whole life, and I had to stay in that box all day. I couldn't leave the box, and I was the only kid. So I'm in class with like all my classmates, and I'm in this box in the front of the class like an animal, and I can't leave the box, right? And the teacher even like made me a pillow because like it was just the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
and like I wish I could talk to her now, like, and be like, what was the point of that? You know what I mean? Because that ended up leading towards getting me locked up in like a mental institution because they thought I was suicidal from playing with pens. Like I would do this thing like with writing on myself, and they're like, he's trying to kill himself, and like it just was like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
And it just led from one thing to another, and then went all the way to truancy, to rehabs, to training schools, to ACI. It just snowballed. You know what I mean? And it all stemmed from just, you know, I think just being mishandled in elementary school. I mean, that you can't put a kid in a box and you know, put him in a different class or something. But just like, I think they just handled it wrong. But I mean, what are you going to do? Yeah,
they used to send me to the basement too.
Yeah.
And same thing. There was this little box. It was like a room that I'd have to go in. It was in a classroom, and all the walls were green. And because green was supposed to be calming. So like if I'd get in trouble in class, like I'd get thrown out of class, I'd have to go down there and sit in the green room.
Yeah.
And it was just like this little cubicle that was green. And like same thing, like I would lash out because like you're trying to put me in a box right now.
Yeah,
you know
like,
what I mean?
What the fuck?
Yeah. And that's a big thing with the education system, man, is that like obviously you and I have done pretty well and we're successful in our own ways, right? But we can't learn in this institutionalized classroom, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, I can't listen to somebody speak information, retain it, and then apply it on paper. Like for me, there's a disconnection there somewhere, right?
Yeah, me
Doesn't
too.
mean I'm stupid, right? I also have a big fucking chip. I used to have a big chip on my shoulder, right? I came from a fucking tough little fucking life growing up, right? So obviously I had a little chip on my shoulder. I was a little angry. I feel like you can't take a kid like me and put me in a class with a bunch of other kids that like had this great upbringing and like expect me to just fit in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like there's so many kids like that. And that's what I love about the trades, is that the trades is like the place for those kids.
Yeah.
You know, because like, yeah, we're not great at fucking taking tests or like reciting information and all this other stuff. But if you would have put me in a business class then, like I would have killed it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I wasn't good in wood shop. You would have thought that I'd be good in wood shop. But it wasn't because I didn't.
It's because it was in a class setting.
Right. And it's because I just didn't fucking care.
Yeah.
I didn't apply
We didn't give a
myself.
no,
I didn't
we
give a
didn't.
fuck less.
No.
Like I don't even want to be here. I'm trying to teach me shit about wood. You know what I mean?
I was selling jerseys and stuff. Like my main motive, like whenever I went to school, was like, how do I make money?
Yeah.
And I would pick up ounces, and then I led the pounds, and I, you know, there was one situation where the truancy officer knew that I was about to make a deal. Somebody ratted me out, and I had an ounce in my hoodie thing right here, the pouch, and he grabbed me and put me up against a locker, and I ended up pushing him back, and he fell behind a student, fell on his head, hit the back of his head, and I ran out of the back parking lot, and I hid underneath a car for like hours until everybody left, and then I screwed home. But when I got home, they were waiting for me at the house.
Right.
And that's what ended up, when I got locked up and all that stuff. But like, yeah, man, structure. Some kids just aren't meant for that kind of structure.
Right.
And like, that's why they have Davies. That's why they have like alternative schools that like teach a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I wish, you know, my son is thinking about that right now, which I hope he takes, because he's very similar to me. You know, he's very, very smart, very street smart, and I think he would do really well in an environment like that.
Yeah, I work with a couple of charter schools through the nonprofit I have for years. So I used to run a community service-based woodworking program for at-risk youth, where I'd bring kids in that had to do like court-appointed community service, because I did hundreds of hours of community service, but it was always stupid shit, cleaning cop cars after the weekend, or like picking up trash on the side of the road, which is services that need to be done, but I wasn't learning anything from it. So when I started the program, I figured I could bring kids in, and using the 501c3, I could teach a woodworking program to these kids, and we would do community service-based woodworking projects. So I did that for a few years, and I'd bring kids in, they'd do their hours in the wood shop, we'd build stuff, like we made WMUR, which is like a news station up here. Like we made WMUR once, we made the newspaper a bunch of times. Like it's a pretty cool little project. But with the charter school, there's a charter school in Derry called The Next. And they have this alternative program where your senior year of high school, you have to put in 400 hours into like the job or career that you think you want to go into.
Yeah.
So I'd bring kids in that wanted to do like woodworking or construction or whatever that is, and they would do their 400 hours with me. But I loved that program, and I feel like it's starting to catch on now, like with these charter schools and these alternative schools, where they're starting to identify some of these kids and realize that like in an institution in this like classroom setting, these kids can't really advance. But if we can do something different and kind of gear a curriculum to them specifically, they excel. They're about 30 years behind, but at least it's starting to catch on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I implore anybody that is going through any type of situation in school to get into the trades.
Yeah.
It's one of the best things that I did. When I got into the union, I immediately wanted to learn everything about the business.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a classroom setting. I was there. I knew I was making money, and I knew that there was opportunity for growth.
Yep.
So I wanted to learn. Okay, how do I hang the drywall? How do I tape the drywall? Where does the money come from? Who pays the money? What about the insurance? What about the payroll? I was that type of person that I wanted to know every angle because I kind of knew I was setting myself up for ownership without even really knowing it.
Yeah.
My fascination with business from a young age has always been just so strong. I started selling jerseys at 13, 14 years old. My aunt bought me a jersey from China. She lived at China at the time. And I remember her mailing me this jersey. It was a Tom Brady jersey, and it was a triple stitched, authentic, like Mitchell and Ness. And I'm like, she just spent like $300 on me. She didn't have to do that. And so I call her and I thank her. I'm like, thank you for blah, blah. She goes, oh, it was only $20. And I'm like, huh, $20. I could get at least $100 to $75 for that here.
Send me 50.
I got 150. I got 150. And we ended up making like 30 grand that year off of jerseys. But I would go to tailgates. I would go to every season. A basketball season would come up. I would go to the Garden. I was just all over it. When fidget spinners came out, I bought thousands of those things. And I've always just had that mindset, that entrepreneurial mindset, without even knowing really.
Right.
It was just something I enjoyed to do. Yeah. I like the transactional based business. Yep. The relationship building, the networking, the answering your phone, it's almost like organized chaos.
Yeah.
I thrive in it.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, right? So me and you both kind of went down the same path. We were entrepreneurs at a young age illegally, right? We did illegal things. And, we both kind of went down that path and then learned that like, oh, there's this legal path too that we can do business in. Like if you were in, say, middle school, right? And they presented a entrepreneur class in 6th grade. Do you think that you would have transitioned from street life to legal life like quicker or sooner? Do you think you would have strived in that?
Yeah.
I kind of think I would too, man.
Yeah.
Because and that's the thing, right? Like I know that street life. I know the legal way of doing things, right? And I grew up that way, right? But that's all I knew. I thought that was the only way. Like I literally thought by 40 years old I was going to be a fucking legitimate gangster. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
me too.
I feel like if somebody would have presented, like, instead of fucking doing history class, if someone said, hey, come here, I got this business class, like, I'm going to teach you how to make money legally.
Yeah.
Check this out. Like, I feel like I would have fucking exploded in, like, 8th grade.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. I don't know why they don't do that. I know that some colleges are finally starting to do entrepreneurial classes, but, like...
high schools, too.
Yeah, at the same time, it's kind of like... high school definitely needs it. College, it's like college is a different thing. I don't know if college necessarily would mesh well with like an entrepreneurship class, but I guess it could. But
my oldest son who works for me is my administrative assistant. He's the one I was telling you. He's down in South Carolina. He works about 10, 12 hours a week for me, just doing admin work. But he started taking business classes and entrepreneur classes in high school in Pinkerton, actually in Derry.
Oh yeah.
So they have like these cool classes that like, they're done okay. Like I feel like they could be done better, but these cool classes that kind of put them on the trajectory of entrepreneurialism and businesses.
Yeah.
And then what he ended up doing is once he got the scholarship for lacrosse to go down to South Carolina, found all the business admin classes that he could take down there. You know, but again, it's all fucking backwards, man. Because you get down there, you're going down there for business, right?
Yeah.
He had to take a class on empathy.
Yeah,
I'm like, how does that help in fucking
it's
business?
sideways. It's
Like, you could
sideways.
literally get a business degree in a year, but they want to drag it out for fucking 4.
That's where the money comes in. You know, that's where they just try to squeeze as much as they can.
Right.
Listen, if I knew of entrepreneurship when I was 14 instead of selling weed, I didn't even smoke weed. Like, I didn't care about weed. I watched Blow, and I said, he made money just from doing that.
Yeah.
You know, I called somebody, yo, can you get me an ounce? Got an ounce. I think it was like BC's back then for like 300 an ounce. Sold it for like 400, made $100. And I was like, on my way. I was like, okay, well, I can make money doing this. I didn't care what it was. And then it got into other things. And like, again, didn't care what it was. It was the transactional approach of business.
Yep.
And that's, if it was, to answer your question, 100%, man, if I was put in a class that taught me about how to structure overseas deals and
This is how you legally sell jerseys.
then I would be all over it, because even when I was selling jerseys, it was illegal.
Right.
I wasn't paying taxes on it.
Right.
You know, I was getting them from Bangladesh. I don't even know where the hell I was getting them from. Some website, and then they were showing up at my house in a box.
Yeah.
Some of them would get seized, some of them wouldn't, and I would sell them. It was just like. But yeah, if I knew how to do all that stuff legitimately, 100%, man, I think that would have definitely helped.
I almost feel like if they had like middle school, maybe not middle school, I feel like it'd be beneficial, but the schools would probably never go for it. But if they had the one fucking teacher or one administrator or whatever it is that looked for those kids and was like, all right, listen, what are you doing now? Like, it's illegal or it's not illegal, but like, hey, this is how you could kind of legitimize this. This is what you have to do. These are the systems you have to put in process.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I feel like it would have sparked something for me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I bet you they're out there, but there needs to be that.
Yeah.
Like, I bet you they're out there, but there needs to be that put in place.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, one of those guys that, like, almost kind of like a truancy officer.
Right.
You know, that kind of just rolls around, kind of knows what everybody's doing and just making sure everybody's, you know, not a threat.
Right.
And sees this kid hustling, doing whatever, and pull him aside and be like, dude, listen, you got a great bit, because you know, you got to face it. It's whatever you're selling. Yeah, it's bad, and it's like it's marked as bad. They ended up legalizing it years later, like we were saying.
Right.
It's bullshit. And like when I was a book too, like, you know, now FanDuel and all this shit. Like, I was getting arrested, freaking taking bets, and now all of a sudden, you can do it on my phone. So like everything that I was doing, you know, unethically back then is now all of a sudden ethical.
Right.
So it's
So you can actually say you were ahead of the curve. You know what I mean?
guess so. I guess so, man.
Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
you know, it's
crazy.
It's insane, man. So let's just jump back a little bit, because I know we talked a little bit about your past, and then you talked about the, you know, getting into the union and stuff. What was that transition? Like, what happened how did you go from that to being in the union? Like, what was that chain of reaction, change of action?
Going from just like hustling to going into the union.
Yeah.
So I started growing weed right out of high school. I graduated high school. I set up a house. It was the first house that I did. It was in Woonsocket. I blew out the entire third floor. I had like 27 high pressure sodium lights. I was, you know, doing my thing over there. And my stepbrother was a taper in the union. And he goes, hey, Mike, you know, you should really think about joining the trades. You know, you can make $1,000 a week. And when I heard $1,000 a week, I'm like, okay, you got my attention. Because back in, this was 2010, 2009, $1,000 a week was like, dude, I can do something with that.
Right.
So I gave it a little bit of attention. He kept trying to reach out. He goes, dude, you got to get out of this life. You got to get out of this life, because it started getting deeper and deeper. And I had a business agent call me, and he was like, hey, come down to Boston. Let's talk. You know, we got a class going on soon. We'd love for you to get involved. So I went down. I put in the time. I went through the whole
Apprentice.
The apprenticeship program. Yep. I actually got kicked out of the apprenticeship program, which was for the best, because they put me in as a journeyman right away.
Yeah.
What you would usually have to do is put in your 4 years as an apprentice. But I got kicked out of the apprenticeship program, which boosted me right to a journeyman, and I was good enough to be a journeyman. So I essentially skipped the 4 years and got journeyman rate right away, and I was making $1,200, $1,300 a week.
Yeah, that's sweet.
So I did that for like 7-8 years, you know. But it was Listen, the trades is an amazing opportunity for a lot of people. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
A lot of people can make a great living from it and have a great life. My shoulders were just beat up, man. I got into a lot of fights. I was a boxer as a kid. I played a lot of sports. My shoulders were just not built for taping all day. So I just rewired and I started thinking about how to own the business.
Yep.
And that's kind of how it took off.
But you stayed in the trades. I mean,
I did, yeah. I stayed in the trades and I started a drywall company in 2016. It was called Ocean City Drywall. It failed within 2 years because I wasn't clean at the time. I was doing perks and I was all messed up on other shit. And so essentially it failed. But I learned a lot within that 2 years. I did learn how to structure, run SOPs, operation procedures. I learned payroll. I learned branding, marketing. I just wasn't ready to make that leap of full commitment. I still was stuck in my shit.
Yeah.
If you don't fast forward a few years, 2019, I started CES Construction. It took off, then we went with Horizon and now we're on our way. Yeah.
And the podcast.
And now we're actually, my main goal right now is we want to get into sober living.
Yep.
It's a passion of mine. I'm clean, sober, going on 3 years now, and it changed my life completely.
Yeah.
I'm a different person today. If you would have seen me 3 years ago, you'd be like, this guy's a fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
And I was. Somebody said something to me the other day that resonated with me. And he goes, people warned me about you. And I said, yeah, they should have. I would have warned you about me too. I would have fucking robbed you. I would have done anything. Like, yeah, they should have. But people change.
Yeah.
People do change and they can change for the better. And I did.
Yep.
So yeah, we want to get into sober living and we want to kind of put together a program where we can help people that come out of rehabs, detoxes, the ACI, and structure them, teach them how to start an LLC, teach them about credit, how to rebuild your credit. Because it's not as hard as people think it is.
Right.
Rebuilding your credit, man, it only takes about a year and you can start getting, you can start using other people's money.
Right. And it's funny because it's daunting to think about, but it's one of those things that like the thought of it is way harder than the actual action of it.
It seriously is, man. People complicate it way too much.
Right.
If you just put one foot in front of the other and you make one phone call after another and you get with the right people, you surround yourself with the right people, things will happen.
Yeah.
Things will just happen organically. And it's like the back end stuff, it's that instant gratification that all addicts always try to get. You have to put that to the side.
Right.
Because in business, it's not about instant gratification. It's about building your foundation.
Yeah.
And then you receive your earnings in the back end.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to pause for a second. Hey, thanks for showing up, John.
What's up, John?
John, Mike.
What's up, man? How you doing? How are you?
I had to call you out, bro. And we're keeping this on here, Will. Cool, man. Yeah, I think that like my buddy Eric is sober, built a sober living facility and did really well and kind of building that company and selling it and does really well for himself and built a really good business and helped tens of thousands of people. If you think about the effect that he had and his business had on people, especially in this area, it's just absolutely crazy because it's not just the people that he directly affected, it's the people that he affected that also affected other people, that also affected other people. There's this ripple effect that came out of what he built that saved.
It gives me goosebumps, dude.
Saved
just thinking about that.
Thousands of lives. And, at the end of the day, yeah, he got a big payout, a big payday for it and built this incredible company. But if anybody deserves that, man, it's that dude. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that like I know a lot of people and I know a lot of people in business and I know a lot of entrepreneurs, hardest working person I've ever met. Mm. And that motherfucker has done more for people free of charge just to help than any of us will probably do in a lifetime, you know? And I was there, I watched it all. Like I rode shotgun with him and seen it all and seen how much he worked and watched mothers collapse into his arms for saving their kids' lives. And he did so much good and got a good payday out of it and built a really successful company. And it's needed, man. It hasn't gotten much better, and it's just, there's a lot of people dying. I've been to close to 50 funerals in my life and 3 weddings, and it should be the opposite. Yeah, man. You know what I mean?
That's powerful.
So it's like, it's necessary and it doesn't matter where you are. It's needed.
I feel like people who have been through that and they kind of come out the other end and they're able to provide, they're able to give back in that kind of way. It's very powerful, and I feel like they go above and beyond because they know the impact that it left. My family, it destroyed my family.
Yeah,
it destroyed my relationships. It destroyed my everything. Everything around me crumbled. Everything around me was hurt, was dying, it was lonely, and it was just so like to see the other end and to know that people are going through that right now and there is hope and there is an ability for them to change. Yeah. Listen, you can provide the tools for them. You can't make them do it. But what my vision is I just want to provide the tools for them to be able to have the access and the ability to change.
Right.
And that's it, man.
Well, the thing is, if you can direct that mindset, right? Like an addict is addicted to a substance, right? They're addicted to that lifestyle. If you can direct that into a different avenue, like they can be some of the best, most successful people on the planet.
Yeah.
Some of the most successful, some of the best humans, just downright good fucking people I know are in recovery and, are actively practicing recovery every single day. Yeah. Some of the best people I know.
That's exactly what I did.
And some of the most successful people I know.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I don't want to say you trade an addiction for an addiction, but it's just redirecting your mindset. You know what I mean? And it can be so fucking powerful. But the problem is there's just not enough resources or people that are willing to take the chance and give people like that a chance. And put them on the right path. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's I ran a woodworking program for guys at my buddy's sober living facility for a couple of years, and it was so much fucking fun, man. And there's still a couple of guys that are in the trades to this day. This was 15 years ago that are still in the trades. I still hear from every now and then, and like to have a little piece of that, right, and redirect them a little bit, and like this is what we're doing now, but this is what you could do, and like to see them flourishing in these big construction companies and doing all this, it's just fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, a lot of addicts have great business minds.
Yep.
And it's that if you can hustle up $200, $300, $400 a day
with nothing
on the streets
right.
with nothing, imagine what you can do. And that's always been my philosophy, dude. I had a $500 a day drug habit.
Right.
I didn't have a job. I didn't have shit. But I came up with that $500 every single day. Right. I don't know how the fuck I did it, right. but I did. So you have to rewire that thinking into, okay, now I have everything that I didn't have before: a phone, a laptop. I got more networking. I got more connections. I got good friends, good people around me. Those things that I didn't have before, now I can use that to legitimize all the money, all the success that I want to bring in.
Right.
And I hate using the word money, man, because it's not. That's a byproduct of all the stuff that I like to do.
Agreed.
Everything that we do, I love to do. I don't get involved. We have people present opportunities to us all the time. This week, 2 alone, and I turned them down because I was like, it just doesn't make sense. I wouldn't feel happy. Would I make a ton of money? Probably. But I wouldn't be fulfilled. It's
right.
not. It's not all about the money.
Yeah, I agree.
And
to some people it is. And again, perfectly fucking fine. Yeah. If it's all about the money, it's all about the money. Yeah. Like it is what it is. But I'm the same way. Like success for me isn't gauged or it's not gauged by finances. It's not gauged by money. Success for me is giving back. Like I owe the trades a debt. You know what I mean? Like I'd be dead if I didn't get introduced to this trade. Yeah. So like for me, I owe a debt that I repay every single day. Yeah. So like for me, if I can do that and help other people and, create good relationships with other people in the trades that are also trying to do the same things. And like, if I can make some money doing it, great. But dude, I don't fucking need anything. I'm a very simple man. I'll go live in a fucking box in the woods. Like I could care less. Yeah. Right. It's never really been something that's high on my value list. Not to say anything bad about people that have a lot of money, because I have plenty of friends that have a ton of money, and they live a great life. But it's just not. That's not what drives me. It's not really what motivates me. Like you said, it's just a kind of byproduct.
It's going to happen.
Right.
It's going to happen. I mean, we keep doing the things that we're doing right now. It's just going to happen.
Right.
And whether you spend it how you want is up to you.
Right.
You can invest it into the market. You can buy a Lamborghini.
Right.
You can go buy 3 families. You can go do whatever you want to do. You know, some people live very laid back, but you would never know. Like, dude, that guy's balling out right now.
Right.
And he's walking around in freaking Chucks or what are those things that kids wear? Help me out. Crocs. Yes,
fucking
Crocs. man.
You don't have no Crocs, bro?
No, I'm not a Croc guy. Yeah, I can't do it, dude. I can't do it.
You know what's funny is I wear them all the time because they're at my front door. Like I have teenage boys, so there's
like
always
slippers?
a pair. Yeah, I always throw them on like to run out to my truck or some shit.
I haven't gotten there yet, dude. I got slides. I got the Nike slides.
I got slides too.
Yeah, I'll throw them on quick if I got to go outside.
Yeah, well, the thing is, my slides are always in the bedroom. The Crocs are always at the fucking door. So like this morning, I went out to my truck in my robe and a pair of yellow Crocs to grab some shit out of my truck.
Yeah.
I'd never wear them in front of people, but like,
we went to a wedding the other day that people were wearing Crocs at. It was funny, man.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we were like, this is wild. This is wild.
Yeah, they took over, man.
Yeah.
I wish I had that business idea. Like, hey, let's make these stupid fucking slippers made out of plastic.
It wasn't even a business idea, dude. It was a medical. It was supposed to be for the medical field.
No shit.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be. They just rebranded it into a fad. They started off. Am I correct, Sheena? They started off in the medical field.
No shit.
You had to wear them in the hospital because they didn't carry bacteria. Some other reasons, whatever they were, I don't know, but they weren't doing well, and they saw opportunity. And I think what happened is somebody ended up wearing them, and they seized that opportunity to market that particular person who was either a celebrity or somebody of high stature. And they were like, these are cool guys. Same thing they just did with New Balance.
Yeah.
New Balance, dude. Who the hell wore New Balance 2 years ago? My grandfather.
Yeah.
Like
the Velcro straps.
The New Balance was not a thing like 3 years ago, but it's the marketing. And just to touch on marketing, it's one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah. It's
like you can sway the opinion of the masses with good marketing.
Yep.
And that just goes directly right to business.
Yep.
I mean, that's what we really run Horizon HVAC on. We turn it into a brand. We turn it into a thing that's just not an HVAC company. It's a family. It's more. I try to build it into a vision. Like if you go on my Instagram, it's just like a day in the life. It's like you get to see the good, you get to see the bad. These are actual people that are earning a living, that are in the trades, that are, just out there hustling and grinding. And the transparency and the consistency is what we try to show.
Yep.
If you can show that, because there's a lot of half-assed people out there, man. There's a lot of people that think that they're doing it right, and they will. It just happened to me the other day. I lost a deal, a $6,000 deal, nothing crazy, but a guy underbid me $500, and it's like he knew who I was. He just did it. It's like why? It doesn't make sense, but that's
business.
That's business. I love it though. I love business, man. Business is a passion of mine, and I'm just very happy to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, me too, man. I always think about like if I ever had to go back to work for somebody else, I couldn't
such
do
a
hard
dude.
time.
I couldn't. I wouldn't.
Yeah, me either.
Really, man. I couldn't. If it was a situation where I knew like if I were to go work for somebody that had something that I could learn from, that I would think about it, right? If they put me at a high salary that I could just pay my bills and afford my lifestyle that I have now, and I could spin it and eventually be a partner, or spin it and start a business from that business, I would think about it. There would have to be something in place, but it would just have to make sense.
Yeah, but imagine like what if they told you like, yeah, we're gonna hire you. It's gonna be this great salary. You're gonna make more money than you are now, afford your lifestyle, and then some. But you can never go out into business on your own again. You'll never be a partner, right?
No, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
Like, so that's funny. Like, because I think the same thing. Like, if somebody said like, hey, why don't you come work for me for a little bit? I'll teach you this thing. Like, I'm thinking 10 years ahead. Like, yeah, I'll come work for you for a couple of years, but my end goal is going to be to own that, right?
Or do it together.
Or do it together,
or make,
something,
or
right?
make money together.
Right.
Let's branch off and start something together.
Yeah. But that's the entrepreneurial mind, right? Like that's what you think. You don't think like, oh, I'm going to go to work for somebody else and then punch a clock 9 to 5 until I'm 65 and retire.
Yeah.
Like you think like, I'm going to go learn some shit for a couple of years and then I'm going to jump it on my own and do it better.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to partner up or,
I did that with the company that right before I started CES Construction, I worked for a company called HydroEarth. Shout out to HydroEarth. They taught me a lot about business. And what we did is we built all of the grow facilities in the East Coast. Millions and millions of square footage of canopy space, rolling tables, flooded, rolling racks, flood tables, irrigation, LEDs. We built, warehouses quadruple the size of this, just full of bud, full of just, it was millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of operation. And I ended up becoming foreman like 6 months in. I ran like 15 guys or so. But that business, believe it or not, taught me so much about where I am today, about how to read people, you know, how to call out bullshit. Like, you know, do you have employees?
Yeah.
So like, you know, like the call out thing and like if they're really telling the truth or not, and like just the stories and this and that, and are you going through shit today? Like, you're more than a boss. You have to be there for them at the same time and kind of understand what they're going through. So like,
which is a real tough balance sometimes.
It is, because you can become attached to some of these people, man.
Yeah.
You know, like I got a kid working for me right now. He's a childhood friend. I care death. Like I really care about the kid. He's trying to turn his life around, and we're giving him every opportunity to do so. And it's like, if he doesn't, it's gonna like, it'll break my heart. It'll be like, damn, man, like you had it right here. Yeah. But I think he's going to. He's a great kid, great installer, a rock star. He's the type of kid where he's just like, he doesn't care about times, like the 8-hour thing. I hate that. Like the time.
5 o'clock, gotta go.
Time watches, I hate that, man. It's like, you know, you should just be happy with the amount of work that you did that day.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because like I had a crew when we were doing installs and when I had the woodworking business, and it was like, you know, all guys, blue collar, job sites, that type of stuff. And now with the kitchen bath design, I have women designers who work for me. And it's a whole different ball game on how to manage those two different types of things. Yeah. Because like, you know, I was still a little bit of a hothead when I had a tool belt on, and like I could blow up on the guys and what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? Can't do that in a showroom with women. Yeah. You know?
How did you learn to switch that? Like, I'm curious to know about your story and like how you came from, and I'm sure you told it a million times on here, but you know,
I'll tell it a million more, man.
Yeah. How did you make that switch on the street life to where you are?
You know, there was a couple of different things, and it's actually funny. I'll never forget the day, you know, I found out that my girlfriend was pregnant with our first son. And at the time we were living the life, right? Like, you know, a lot of bad things going on around us, and, you know, just a ton of shit going on. And, you know, I'd already been in the trades for a little bit. I'd already gotten thrown out of school. And, you know, that helped to kind of take my focus away from it sometimes, but not all the time, right? Like my kid's mother and I have been friends. We've known each other forever. So like we were together, found out she's pregnant. Neither one, it was an accident. Like weren't in a place to have kids, you know what I mean? And I'll never forget it. I was sitting in a car in my driveway, my buddy's Acura. So my buddy Cal's driver's seat, I'm passenger seat. I got Tanita in the back seat. I got my buddy Johnny in the back seat, and I got Gary in the back seat. We're passing around 2 blunts. And I was like, I just found out Brittany was pregnant. And buddy Cal lights up the blunt and goes to hand it over to me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm good. And you know, I swear the music even stopped in the car and everybody just stared at me. And I was like, I think I'm good for now. I got to get my head around this. And everybody except for Johnny is dead that was in that car. You know what I mean?
How old are you?
18. So Gary's dead, Cal's dead, Tanita's dead. Johnny, you know, is a mess. Like it's, you know, so everybody in that car continued down that same path and are not with us either physically or mentally anymore. You know what I mean? And that's when I kind of realized that, like, all right, I have this opportunity to kind of learn this trade a little bit, maybe do something with it, right? And like, so I started taking it more serious. And what I learned was I was really good at what I did. And there was gratification in that. Like, we all look for that instant gratification, transactional or whatnot. And I realized that, like, damn, I'm pretty good at this. Like, I think I could get better. And what I started doing was researching all the stuff that I was doing, right? So we were working for a furniture company, and we did all the repairs, whether in-house or in the shop. For a while, they wouldn't let me go in-house because, again, I was a little bit of a hothead. So I was in the shop a lot, and like what we would do is, like, you know, say we get 10,000 of these sofas, and the sofas are all coming, you know, 30% of these sofas are coming with this problem. How do we fix it? And how can we have the production line fix it from the factory that we're ordering it from? So we take it all apart, rebuild it, fix it.
Why would they come damaged?
Yeah, they would come damaged from the factory. So that's what I did, like identifying the issue, figuring out the best way to fix it in the shop, figuring out the best way to fix it in home, and then figuring out a best way for the manufacturers to fix it and give all that information out. And I got really good at that. So then I started researching everything I could about furniture, finishing techniques, repairs, upholstery work, frames, production, all this stuff. And then with the education, I realized that, like, damn, pretty fucking smart. Like I didn't think I was that smart. You know what I mean? And, you know, then it just started, you know, I got that gratification. Then I started going into these houses and I was working on furniture that was worth more than what I was making in a year. And I'd walk in as a 19, 20-year-old kid, still baggy jeans, looking like a thug, and the people would be nervous about me working on their stuff. And what I realized was with product knowledge, I could make them comfortable. So I'd say, oh, listen, like you got this universal table. So this stuff is actually made down in North Carolina. Their finishing process is this. This is how they do their laminates. This is how they do their top coats. This is how they build their legs. And I would just give them all this information, and you just see like that. Their mindset would just switch. They'd be like, all right, this kid knows what the fuck he's doing. Let's see what he can do. Because my pitch was always like, listen, even if the guys damaged it on delivery, right? I'd say, listen, I'm going to repair this for you, okay? If you're not happy with it at the end of the, I'll give you a new table. No problem. No questions asked. I said, let me at least just practice. Like I got to keep my skills sharp. They would say, okay. And then I would talk to them about the product and make them more comfortable with my knowledge. And then I'd knock the repair or whatever it is out of the park. And they would be like, damn, this motherfucker knows what he's doing. And they would keep it. So my success rate on the road got really, really high, higher than people that had been doing it for 20, 30 years. And then I just realized that like, fuck, dude, like I'm capable of fucking anything. You know what I mean?
Were you branding at the time, or like, were you like posting like all your?
No, this was before fucking social media stuff. You know,
MySpace
what I mean?
days.
Yeah, right. And of course, like you know, coming from the street life, like I was always afraid of like posting or like keeping fucking any kind of information on what I was doing. You know, so it took a little bit, but yeah. So did that for a while, man. 2007, company went out of business, and that's when I started my woodworking business. And I literally just figured I was working so after that company went out of business, I got another job with another furniture company. And I was only working 4 days a week with them, 4 10-hour days. So I had 3 days off. Of course, I'm a young father, so like I have to provide for my kids. I have to be home when I can be and that type of stuff. So I just figured like, oh, I'll start my own thing and just do it on the side. And, you know, so on my 3 days off a week, I started kind of taking my own clientele. I was buying tools off of Craigslist and like yard sales and like all these different places, just getting these tools and all this stuff cheap. And I just started doing shit on the side just to make a little extra bread. And then, you know, it just got busier and busier and busier. And then I told the furniture company I was working for, like, listen, I have customers asking me all the time if I can work on product that's not sold by the company, that they have in their house, antiques, that type of stuff. And I just want to make sure it's okay for me to do that. I won't communicate with them on the clock. I won't do any work on the clock.
Because it was their customers?
Because it was their customers. And I didn't want to step on feet, like, and I didn't want to burn any bridges. So I had some business cards made. They gave me the okay to do it. So if a customer asked, I'd give them a business card and say, listen, I can't talk about it now, but I'll give you a call when I get out of work tonight. And then I would go do that stuff on my day off. And that clientele just got further and further and further behind. So at one point, I just said, fuck it. I'm going to jump out on my own and give it a shot. And at the same time, I had another buddy who does sand sculptures for a living. So he travels all over the world to all these beautiful places, all these beautiful beaches, and does sand sculptures and makes his living doing that. And I was like, if this motherfucker can do it in sand, I can do it with wood.
That's crazy.
So
that's crazy. You had a passion for it. Because when I got into drywall, I fucking hated it.
Yeah, I hated it at first too, man.
Did you?
It was just one of those things where like I was like, all right, I have this opportunity that I'm already doing this job. If I just take it a little bit more serious and educate myself and try and get better at it, maybe I can learn to like it.
Yeah.
You know? And then once I really got fucking into it, there was just so much, because there's so much with furniture making and antique restoration, and there's so many different, you know, production ways, and there's just so much of it that I just wanted to learn fucking everything.
Yeah.
And in learning all that stuff and like getting in with like the Guild of New Hampshire Woodworkers and like meeting all these people, same thing, networking and learning from anybody that I could learn from, like, that's why I grew my passion, you know, because at first I was just loading trucks and like just trying to keep my PO off my back, dude. And I didn't want to get locked up. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it wasn't a passion to begin with, but it was just, you know, once I found out my girlfriend was pregnant and I wanted to be a better father and just give them a better role model, I just started learning as much as I could, and that's kind of what built the passion for what I was doing.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. You caught it young. You got it at a young age.
So glad I did.
You really did, because that's not a lot of people do. A lot of people like to get that out of their system into their 20s, into their into their early 30s, and it doesn't really work out that well.
I know, man. And
I'm very grateful that it did for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, I've buried a lot of people, man. I've lost a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Like, that whole crew I grew up with is dead, strung out, or in jail.
Yeah.
I'm one of very few that made it out alive, and one of even fewer that's doing something productive with their lives.
New Hampshire's tough, huh? It's there's not a lot going on, and there's a lot of drugs. I know a few people from New Hampshire, and it seems to be kind of the story of the area.
I feel like the opioid epidemic hit rural areas real hard, real fast.
Yeah.
I kind of had a leg up on it, right? Like, I'm not in recovery. I've never been an addict. I've been around everything. I've seen people overdose. I've watched people shoot up. Like, I've been there. Like, I've moved it. Like, I've been around it my entire life. Like, since I was a fucking toddler. My older brother got locked up, put in a treatment center the first time when he was like 12, I think. And like, on weekends, like, people were going to soccer games. I was going to fucking treatment centers. Like, so I was introduced to what happens to people that live that life at a very young age. And not that it scared me, because I had no...
Probably did you good, dude.
Probably did me good, right?
Probably did you good.
But my biggest thing is I always look back and, like, I've unboxed a lot of this stuff to figure out who I am and what I am, right? And I feel like one thing that I learned about myself is that I was always like the protector of the group, right? Like, my job, or like my role in what we were doing, was in protection, right? Like, so if shit popped, I was the first one throwing hands. That's all I did growing up, was fight. So like, in playing that role in our group, I always wanted to stay. I didn't want to get too fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, everybody would be shooting up, and we'd be with people we didn't know, or like we were going to different places where we didn't know people. Like, I always wanted to be sharp, because if shit popped off, like, I was the one throwing hands.
Yeah.
And I realized that, like, playing that role kind of is one of the reasons that I didn't get into it. You know what I mean? And then obviously girlfriend getting pregnant, and then like all this stuff happens, and I, getting thrown out of school and having to find a job, or I'm getting locked up. This chain of events happens, and then all of a sudden I'm pushed into a different direction. Everybody's still going down that same road. Like, we used to call my house Chateau LeBlanc. It was a fucking open door. Like, I was always bringing my buddies in who needed a hot shower, who needed a hot meal, who needed a place to stay for the night. They had warrants. They were on the run. Like, we just were like this revolving door for a bunch of people. And then taking on that role too. Like, same thing. Like,
was your mom around? Like, is that why your house was always open?
I mean, we moved out young. My mother's always been a part of my life. She's been around forever. She had a real rough come up too, and kind of had a rough life. So, she's always been around, but she did the same thing. And like, thinking back on it, when we were younger, like, I had buddies that were always on the run, and like people that are always in trouble with the law, or runaways. Like, my house was the house that everybody went to when I was a kid. Yeah. And then once I got my own place and we had our family, it just stayed the fucking same. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, my mother was always the one that was feeding all the fucking neighborhood kids. And then 15 years later, I was doing the same fucking thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But again, I had to put an end to that too, because like, I have two boys that I want to put in a certain trajectory, and being around this all the time, and they've experienced, I get choked up. They've experienced too much death for kids. Like, they're fucking 18 and 20. They've seen a lot of people die. I don't want them to experience that shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, I had to cut all that off too. And in doing that, all those chain of events just put me on the right path. You know?
Yeah. That's amazing, man. It's you sounds like you're an incredible father, man, and it's a beautiful thing meeting. And I give you like big props for being a great dad. And I love meeting other fathers who have that much. I didn't have a father growing up, and similar stories kind of when we were talking about earlier. He was there, but he wasn't there. And it just taught me how to be a better dad. Yeah. It taught me how to, those days that I remember, like, fuck, man, like, where's he at? I told myself when I had my son, I will never let him feel that. I'll never let him feel, where's dad? What's he doing? Like, why isn't he here? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? So, we go through everything for a reason. For sure. Everything happens for a reason, man. And, I truly believe in that. It comes full circle.
For sure. And going back to dads, like, I feel like, my father was a better father than his father, right? Like, he wasn't a great dad, but he was better than his fucking father. Like, I never even met that guy, but I've heard some fucking stories. Like, my father was better than that. Yeah. He did his best. You know what I mean? Same thing my mom. My mother went through a ton of shit coming up. Yeah. She was a better mother than her mother. Was she great? No. But was she perfect? No. But she was she had to deal with me and my older brother, bro. Like it wasn't fucking easy.
Dude, it's tough being a parent.
For sure.
It's for somebody to judge another parent I just feel like unless they're doing some extreme shit, you know what I mean? Just let them do their thing. You know, everybody has their own style of bringing up their kids. Like we have our own style. Like nobody should ever judge anybody for any of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's it's crazy.
Oh yeah, man. All right, so we got into a lot, man.
Yeah.
Let's hop on fucking toolbox tips.
Yeah.
Take it back to fucking business stuff, man. So practical advice that you give to anybody kind of coming up in the trade or wants to get into, even starting a podcast, man. Like, both of us have done it. Like, what's that advice you'd give to yourself 20 years ago?
Just one word, man. Consistency. It's
that.
Just consistency. It's that simple. It's not a hard thing. Anything is possible, and I promise you that. Anybody watching, anything that you want to do, you can do if you just follow through with consistency, persistency, and just nonstop. Just hammering away at whatever it is that you want to do. Don't ever just stop. We had a plan. We had a plan to start a podcast. And we took the steps to do it. Mm-hmm. We made the phone calls. We found the studio. We started booking the guests. And we said, listen, when this starts rolling off, we just got to be careful on who we have on. We got to just choose our energy wisely, because people are going to be introduced into our lives that have ulterior motives, and we have to protect our energy. And it's happening. Everything that we've said is happening. Yep. So it just comes down to doing the right thing, keeping your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. That's it, point blank.
Even if it's to yourself.
Yes. Anything. Yeah. If you say you're going to do it, do it. If I tell you I'm going to be there at 4:00, man, be there at 3:30. Yep. Like it's just, it puts you above the rest. And if you get to that position, you start gaining traction in your town, and then you start gaining traction in your state, and then you can start gaining traction throughout the country. Yep. It can keep growing. There is no ending. You can decide where the ending is. You can say, hey, I'm done, but ultimately you can take it as far as you want to go. Yep. Because we have every single tool at our disposal. If you have a cell phone, you can do anything you want to do. Yeah. So with consistency, persistency, hard work, keeping your word, dedication, all that shit, man, I have it tattooed on me. That's what I would say, man.
Hell yeah, I love that. Yeah. I think it's good advice, man. I feel like a lot of people do lack in consistency, and when things get hard, they kind of want to throw their hands up.
Yeah, even if you don't want to do it. Like, dude, I don't want to go to the gym. I fucking hate going to the gym.
Yeah.
My shoulders hurt, my knees hurt. It's like, we go though. Yep. We do it because I know that it's something that it's structure for me, right? It's part of my routine. It makes me feel better. It makes me operate better. It makes me perform better. I know that if I miss a day, I won't sleep that night. I mean, ask her. If I don't do cardio one day, I'm up until 1:00 thinking about business. Yep. I'm like, well, what can we do next? Like, who should we reach out to? What branding idea should we do tomorrow? What marketing schemes can we do? I'm up all night. If I don't do certain things, they're non-negotiables. Yep. You have to put your non-negotiables in place, and if you don't, then it's just not going to work.
For sure.
You have to put those in place.
Yeah. Yeah, the gym is such a fucking important part of me. Like, and it's like, so I'm in the gym every day too, and it's just part of my routine. And yeah, some days I don't fucking want to be there, but it's like it's a fucking mental thing at this point for me where like, it's not about being big and strong and looking good with your shirt off, all that stuff. Really, I just go because same thing. Like, I need a way to fucking just shut my head off, man, because it's just nonstop all the time. Yeah. And like, if I don't, if I take a couple of days off, same thing. My sleep routine goes off. My fucking diet goes off. Like everything, it's such it destroys everything else when I stop, and it's like.
It's that momentum thing.
It's a momentum, right?
It's like you put that one foot in front of the other. You keep doing one thing after another. It's a snowball. Yeah. And if you stop or you pause, that will stop. That will stop the momentum. And like you said, the diet goes out the window. Everything goes out the window, dude. Like, we try to put in these routines where we wake up in the morning, we say a little meditation, we manifest the day, we say a little prayer. You know, and then we try to read. You know, we haven't been too great at that because I think, you know, watching too much TV is just pointless.
Yeah,
it's like
I don't have a TV anymore, man.
Pointless information that like you really don't need. But like we sit in Indian style in front of each other and we'll read a book back and forth, you know, page after page.
I love that.
Just practicing the engagement, practicing speaking, you know, just all those tools that you learn throughout life, you can learn, you know, at your home with your partner or whatever. It's just like, it's very important to do that stuff. Yeah. And I didn't really get that until, you know, I got clean, until I decided to make a change.
Yeah.
And I'll tell this to anybody who's struggling right now. With a snap of a finger, you can change. Yeah. Because I don't even know why I did. I don't even know how I did. I just got sick and tired of it. And you know, and I did. I made the decision. It was that consistency thing. I said, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Here's my plan. You know, I made a 1-year plan. I blew it out of the water, and I just kept going. And now I put things in place. I got, you know, a 5-year plan now, and hopefully we can accomplish that. And then we got, you know, all these other things. It's just like, you know, if somebody tells you you're doing too much, don't listen. Yeah. Because trust me, you're doing just fine. You know, a lot of people have the ability to juggle a lot of things at once. And if you're that type of person, to do it. Do it, right? Do it. Yeah, don't listen to the outside noise. Agree with you. All right, sweet, brother. Appreciate you coming on. Absolutely, man. Let's run out to Newburyport, grab some lunch. Awesome. All right, man. Thank you, bro. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for listening, everyone.